How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the 5th episode of Power Hour. I'm Pastor Kyle.
I'm Pastor Ty.
And we have an exciting episode for today. We were talking about the evolution of the church, and we really felt like within the last couple years, there's been a major shift, especially for the American church. Now, I would say starting in the 70s to 80s, that was kind of the big rise of the mega churches, the flashier churches, if you will. And we saw, especially I think when we were both kids in the 90s and early 2000s, not to age us too much, but for me, everyone went to youth group. Everyone went to a church. We had big events all the time. It seemed like there was always bands and special speakers and, special events going on. And it seems like that has slowly started to fade in the 2010s. And especially with the rise of COVID in 2020, there seems to be a crazy shift in not only how we communicate, but also what church looks like. I mean, it went from, you got the flashy, the big worship services, the huge church buildings, these amazing environments. And today it just seems like people aren't necessarily looking for a place to simply sit down anymore. Like church is not an attraction, if you will. That's not the motivating factor for some people. So for us as pastors, and just to lead into it for you, Pastor Ty, what are we actually building here at Powerhouse when you factor in this shift in how we are doing church over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And I think I'd say it like this. I don't think that there's this expectation that no one wants to go to a church with lights and video and music. I think what's really said is it's just expected.
Yeah.
Every church you go to, there's an expectation that you will have good lights, you will have good music, you will have good preaching. So excellence is still there. And I think it should be. Excellence honors God. Sloppy ministry has never changed a life. And if it has, power to it. I think it's crazy. But we need to ask ourselves in place of that a really hard question. And that's, did we create churches full of consumers instead of carriers of the mission of God? They create churches that expect something out of us, just want to sit in their seats. Or did we create a church that is on mission? Because Jesus never said, and Pastor Kyle, I know you know this, Jesus never said, go into all the world and host a great service. I love great services. You love great services. But how we measure a great service is, are we having people walk out the door more like Jesus? And are those people not only becoming disciples, but are they making disciples? Because Jesus didn't say, go and have a great service. He said, what? Go and make disciples. So let me ask you a question. Are we just creating spectators? Do you feel like that's true?
I think that's the question I constantly want to ask myself, because you can show up and you can put on a good show. Now, Powerhouse is never going to compete with megachurch budgets or anything like that. We're not going to be like the flashiest. We're not going to be swinging from the banisters like some churches do. But at the same point, I think it comes down to spectators versus discipleships. Disciples, where's the fruit? Where's the fruit, and how do you see it?
No, I think that's good, because I don't think the attractional model is necessarily the villain. I think the villain really over the last couple of years is churches and pastors have gotten real passive over the last couple of years. The danger isn't in production. The danger is raising up people who never advance the kingdom, who never wage war on behalf of the lost, and who never take responsibility for the mission of God. Because let's just say it like this. A full room does not equal a strong church.
Right. I'm curious, because a lot of pastors will be so passionate about making disciples. And we talked about this in episode 2, fruitful versus faithful as well. But I think pastors miss the fact that just because you are focused more on disciples than spectators, obviously, just because we need to be making disciples and not just filling a room, doesn't mean that we need to forget about excellence.
Yes, yes, I think that's true. I think that if we don't recognize that the culture's changed and it's not a this or that, it can be an and both, then man, we're missing it. We're missing, because I believe that people don't want another event. Let's be honest. There's already great concerts out there.
Mm,
There's all these great YouTubers, there's all these great shows. Like, people aren't looking for more entertainment. What people really want is purpose. They want a mission, they want transformation, they want spiritual authority, and they want real community in their life. That's what I would say is dying. It's not the attractional ministry. It's not the attractional church. It's the spectator Christianity that's dying. And honestly, I say good riddance to it. Good riddance. Because Jesus didn't die to make professional church attenders. He died and raised up again to make discipleship makers.
right. I look at it like everything we do here at church, everything we do as disciples of Jesus is for him. And therefore, why shouldn't we come at it with a spirit of excellence every single time, making sure that things like transitions are correct and graphics are correct, just things that by themselves don't necessarily add anything to the gospel, but at the same point, they don't distract people away from it.
That's right. Here at Powerhouse, we're trying to reach Americans, and Americans have a certain level of production they expect. We go to great movie theaters, we listen to great music. And so to think that it's bad to have those things is, I think, inerrant and wrong. But what I think is real is making sure that the things that we do push forward, that we do produce, has strong content. I don't want strong gift wrapping on a present with nothing on the inside. I want strong marketing, strong packaging to match the strong and never changing message of the gospel. So let me ask you this, Pastor Kyle. If that's not the answer, if it's not just all flash and no substance, what actually keeps people in church nowadays?
For me, I think it's two things. I think, for one, it's a relationship. I think there's a reason why Christ called us a body. He wants and understands that we as human beings need to have a place to belong, need to have a place to call home. That is critical for every person that has ever lived and ever will live. We need to have a place where we can belong and feel like this is our home. That's number one. I think number two, the church is here to build and equip the saints, to build disciples and to create disciples that are going to go out and make disciples. I think so often everyone relies on the pastors, everyone relies on the church. They say, man, if I can just get them to church, then the pastor's going to speak to them and they're going to be saved. But if we look at the book of Acts and how the early church grew, it didn't necessarily just grow in the church. Like Peter would preach and thousands would come saved. Like, they had that level of power inside the church, but we also saw it constantly outside the church, in the streets, in the homes, disciples making disciples from Monday through Saturday.
No, I love that. I love that. And Pastor Kyle, I love my alliteration, so I'm going to say it like this, man. We want both and not to choose between attraction and activation.
Yep.
And we want things to be excellent. We want people to want to come into the church to feel welcome, but we also want to be dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. That's what I love about Powerhouse is, man, we're getting people in the doors. We're offering donuts. We're doing good music. But the hope isn't that they just come through the doors. The hope is that then when they leave, they have a purpose and a calling on their life.
Yeah.
See, we don't want to just gather people. We want to gather them so that we can send them. And if I would say this, as I'm evaluating churches, when I'm looking at churches and people ask, is this a good church or a bad church? One of the things I look at is, in 12 months, when does someone go from informed to commissioned? So if they've been going for 12 months, if they've been going for a year, do they just know more about the Bible, or are they living it out? Do they just know more about Jesus, or are they more like Jesus? Because I think that's the answer. It's not just knowledge. It's not just entertainment. It's transformation. It's transformation, because information alone doesn't transform cities. Entertainment alone doesn't transform cities, but mobilized, Bible believing Christians, they do. That's the hope of the world.
Yeah.
Let me just say this so that you know that I have some personal credibility. Our town is super small.
Right.
American Falls, 4,000 people. Fort Hall, less than 2,000 people. Like you said earlier, I can't produce a big city church because we're not a big city church. We don't have the funds. We don't have the people. We don't have all the things. But you know what we can do? We can out-disciple them. And discipleship is so funny to me because it's such a buzzword. And that's great. I love it. It's in the Bible, but people use that for all different things. And here's what I mean by that. Again, I don't mean it as you know a lot of things about the Bible. I mean, are you like Jesus? That's what I think a disciple is someone that reminds you, acts like, lives like, quotes Jesus. When people take ownership, when they live on mission, and they stop just inviting their friends, but start helping their friends be equipped to live out that movement, that momentum, man, I think things just move fast.
You know, David Platt says, "We have taken the gospel and turned it into a comfortable call for Christians to come to church. Jesus gave his life to make disciples who would give their lives."
That's so good. You know, when I think about the day and age that we're in, no matter what, we know that we're closer to Jesus' return than we've ever been before because time just keeps moving forward. And I just believe that because of the day and age we're in, a lot of people are not even saying that America's post-Christian. They're saying we're pre-Christian because most people don't even know what Christian means anymore. I just feel like this is a season not to play it safe. It's not a season to wait. The harvest is too big, hell is too real, and the call is too great. See, we don't need to just get a church full of spectators. We don't need a large room for the affirmation of the pastor or the speakers. We need to be sending builders to build the kingdom of God. So I'd say this, like, I don't think that the attractional model is dead. I don't think that being excellent is dead, but I think being all flash and no substance is dead.
Yeah.
We need to stop building services so people can attend and start building a mission people can give their lives to. We need to start commissioning people to live out that great commission.
You know, it seems like you look around the world and you look at places like Ethiopia and different parts of Africa, and the church is being not just persecuted, because we would use that term loosely here, but the church is being eliminated. The church is being executed. There are places where hundreds and thousands of Christians are being slaughtered on a daily basis because of their faith. And I think that's a testament to them saying, we are going to follow in the footsteps of Paul, follow in the footsteps of Peter, and ultimately Christ, that we are not going to back down for our faith. And on the flip side, you look at America and you're like, well, it's because we're in this country that stuff doesn't happen. I think it has more to do with the fact that Satan has adequately pacified the church and made it ineffective enough that he doesn't have to use these extreme tactics here. And to me, that's a huge wake-up call.
Yeah, he sung a lullaby and he used comfort to put the church in America to sleep, honestly. And I just really believe that comfort kills more Christians than hardship and persecution ever did. Is so many people here complain about persecution, but we don't really know what that means here the same.
Yeah.
And man, I just get so bogged when people think the answer is, well, then we should just have, excuse my language, but crappier services. That we, man, if we're real Christians, then we'll just meet in a basement with no power and no water, and we'll be happy about it because we love Jesus. And I'm not saying that's the answer. Man, I like big screens. I like skinny jeans. I like smoke machines. Like I'm all about that stuff. I think it's cool. I love it. I don't think that's a big deal. But if that's what it becomes all about, that's when it becomes the big deal. Man, if we can use what God's given us, the excellence, the abilities that God's given us to make much of him, to equip people, to reach more people, then we've got it. But man, if that stuff becomes what we are all about, then we've missed it. If it's a tool, it works great. If it's a God, not so much.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, there's a place, like always, in the middle. For some reason, Americans especially, they have decided that they need to swing the pendulum as far as possible. And if you're not on one side, then you have to swing all the way in the middle. yet there's all the way on the other side. But there is a place in the middle that says you can be not only excellent at things like music and preaching and lights and graphics, while also making disciples. Sometimes it is going to be that worldly thing that brings someone in. But if the church is full of disciples who are strong and living out their faith every day, then that person is not going to end up stuck just focusing on the quote worldly things that the church is offering. They're going to be introduced to a Jesus that will transform their lives.
Well, it's like what Paul said, don't be caught unaware that there are people in your midst that aren't believers yet. And I think that's important. It's why we try to use the language that we use, why we try to talk in the way that normal people talk. But I always found it so funny that when I first became a Christian, and many of you have heard me say this and know this, my goal when I felt called to ministry was to create the kind of church that my friends would want to go to.
Yeah.
Because my friends, they liked me, they saw what God was doing in my life, but they found church boring and unrelatable. And I hated that you felt like you had to choose where, the word's real preached and we're real faithful at Aunt Janine's, or fill in the blank, grandma, whoever's church, because even that's real church because, they got nothing. It's stripped to the bare bones. It's serious. And if you go to a church with good music, it's like, that music's really cool and it's hype, but we're going to go light on the message. And I'm like, man, let's do both. I want good music. I like rock and roll. I don't understand what is up with Christians where they feel like movies and music need to be bad. We should work on that. But man, I like good music. I like good movies. I like good graphics. I like technology. But you know what? I love Jesus. And that's what's important to me. And so we need to get out of this mindset of this or that or less or more and really focus on, man, how can I use the abilities, the tools, the things that God has given me to glorify him and to reach those and equip those that he's put in my care.
J.I. Packer has a quote that I always love. It's the New Testament knows nothing of a disciple who is not also a soldier. I know you can.
I love that. I relate to that a lot. And man, you're just, we're going to start calling you Professor Kyle because I love those quotes you're bringing in. That's really good. I
love quotes.
Let's go, man. Those are good. But yes, I agree with that. And that's what I think it is man, let's not be distracted by cool things, but let's use cool things to reach more people for Jesus. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. I love that we can do things like record this podcast where people all over the world can hear it and it's inexpensive and it works great. If Paul lived in today's world, I don't think he'd be writing letters. I think he'd be recording videos. And why not use the things that God has given us to reach as many people for Jesus as we can? Why not use the thing God's given us to equip the most believers, the most disciples as we can?
Yeah. Have a healthy balance, basically. So the answer, the big question that we started off with, is the attractional church dead? I would say the church that just focuses on the attraction should be dead. But the church that finds a balance between having a level of excellence, and you can have a level of excellence. As you said, we're in American Falls, 4,500 people. We will never compete with the Elevations or the Saddlebacks of the world. That will never happen. But we're not called to compete. We are called to be excellent in everything we do. And in everything we do for the Lord, do it to the best of our abilities. That's what the word is very clear. And that includes making disciples and preaching the gospel with power.
Come on. That's good.
Well, guys, that's all we have for this week. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you have a chance, look back. We uploaded a couple power hours as well that you might have missed. We also have all of our sermons up for 2026. So we are rocking and rolling. So I hope you enjoyed this time. Be blessed, and we will see you next time.